Hello, fellow viewers. Welcome to the CRI channel. My name is Adelaide, and I'm part of the Winged Woman this channel has brought to you. So today, I have a very special guest for you, Mrs. Emery Hyatt, a current professor at Charleston Southern University. She has graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Technical Marketing, has an MBA from Charleston Southern University, and is currently working on her doctorate at Gardner-Webb University. So Emery, thank you so much for joining us. I know I kind of gave them a spill about your credentials, but tell us a little bit more about yourself.
I worked in the corporate world for, about 6 years before deciding to walk away from the corporate world and a new house that I had just bought and volunteer for a year following Hurricane Katrina relief. I left that. I followed a calling to do inner city missions down in New Orleans and spent a year there just kind of reassessing my life and what I wanted out of my career. After that year, I moved back to Charleston, which had become my hometown, and took a job in a nonprofit to where I worked for that nonprofit for about 10 years before transitioning full-time into teaching.
So I talked to you a little bit before this interview about the topic that I want to focus on, and that is Generation Z in the workplace. So one of the questions that I had for you was, what are some unique qualities Generation Z brings to the workplace that past generations have not seen?
So one of those is I believe that they have a desire, a true desire, an increased desire over the millennial generation to see diversity brought into the room, to see them all at the same table. One of these, to give an example of what Coca-Cola Company has done recently. Coca-Cola Company has seen this in their most recent workforce and with the social justice agenda that they seems to be innate with Gen Z, to the point where they have said, okay, as a business, within our business model, we want to make sure not only we have diverse voices and diverse faces at the table, but we also, with our main suppliers, we want to see that on their behalf as well, so that the people that we are doing our main business with are also a diverse group of people, to make sure that we truly are building a product and creating a product that satisfies the world.
Yeah, and I know technology kind of plays a part into that as well. And as a society, I think we've kind of hammered down on this generation's technology addiction, but there has been like some good that has come out of this. As a business person, how can companies, if they haven't already, take advantage of these skills in their workplace?
Well, first of all, absolutely, it's an advantage. Generation Z is known as the most tech-savvy generation. And with the amount of technological advances that we're seeing in a society, quite honestly, the workplace can't keep up with it all. And so one of the biggest things that Gen Z can be bringing into the workplace, not only is their knowledge of certain platforms, social platforms that have arisen, or how to use them, but they can actually even bring to the workplace how to build content based on where the company's vision is, where they want it to go, and how to use some of these new platforms and techniques to help them achieve this and to resonate with the new generation.
Now, we know that no generation is perfect. Each generation has their flaws. So what is something that Generation Z lacks that is needed for the workplace?
So first of all, I would say soft skills. We're seeing a lack in soft skills with Generation Z. Part of that is due to their tech savviness. They're more comfortable behind a screen than they are with human interaction. And there's still a lot of human interaction that is needed in our fast-paced workplace, especially as companies become more and more global with each passing week. That human interaction is becoming more and more valuable. There's a place for the technological advances. There's definitely a need for the technological growth, but met with the human aspect is where you really see companies having a competitive advantage. And so I bring it back to Gen Z again, the tech savviness they have. They understand it, they thrive on it, but in that they've lost some of their soft skills, they've lost some of their relational capacity. The ability to start a conversation and to hold a conversation with almost anyone is lacking at this point. And so that is definitely an area of growth that I see. Another aspect that I think Gen Z brings to the workplace and can work on more so is their empathy as well. This is the first generation that has wanted to see a more caring environment for others, but they haven't known how to fully express it. And the last time we saw this was actually in the radio generation. So before baby boomers, before the World War II kids, we saw this with the radio generation of kind of lacking empathy. But now with the technology advances that we're experiencing as a society, the way for companies to progress, the way for a workplace to progress is to really match those empathetic skills of understanding, of knowing, of desiring to know their customer better alongside of how best to reach them with the technology that we have.
So you're a millennial, and so what would you like to see Gen Z accomplish that your generation could not?
So a couple things that I feel like the millennial workforce brought that I would love to see Gen Z continue is we kind of brought around the idea of flexible workspaces and flexible schedules that had not been seen before. So the typical 9 to 5 is kind of out the window. And of course, COVID increased that for us as well. More people are working from home. More people are working on what we call a project-based schedule versus a time-based schedule. That's something older generations would kind of buck the system on and still do in some aspects. However, what we're seeing in a lot of cases is these flexible work times and flexible schedules brings more productivity into the workplace. And that's something that I hope that Gen Z carries on. I think that they will, because from what I'm seeing, they're very project oriented and they enjoy having just as much free time. They're willing to work hard as long as they can play hard. And so I'm hoping that flexibility will continue. Another aspect of Generation Z is the social justice. That's something that, again, millennials kind of started and making people more aware of, but Gen Z has really taken it upon themselves to move further with that and in a positive way. And I hope that we'll see that continue.
I agree with that. I think with technology and just how far we've come with it, Generation Z is able to utilize that and make their voice louder than past generations. And so now businesses are taking it upon themselves to not make profit the number one priority, but corporate social responsibility as well. So that's a great point that you brought. As a millennial, what are some things that Gen Z does that do not make sense in your mind at all?
They're fashion trends.
Oh, God.
And so I still am holding it a little, I've been scarred by this whole side part and skinny jeans deal. We rescued Gen Z from the crop tops and baggy jeans and platform shoes and everything that we wore in the 90s. We rescued you from this, and you want to make it your own. That is something that I just can't get past. You're back to the middle part of the 70s and you're back to the baggy jeans that we threw out.
It seems to always happen with each generation.
Cyclical. Yes, absolutely. On a more serious note, though, I do feel like Gen Z has been set out trying to prove themselves, and something that they have kind of lacked in the avenue of going about this is they're not accounting for experience as much. They want to be seen, they want to be taken seriously, they want to be seen, they want to be known, but they're wanting to do it by jumping over some of the experience that is needed. And so that's something that as a millennial, I just want to help them slow down a minute to realize that where they're at in their present is a beautiful place, but to stop trying to skip past their present and be so focused on the future, because they'll get there. But I want them to use where they're at and the voice that they have. Once you couple that with experience down the road, I want it to make an even bigger impact. And if they keep skipping steps, it's going to end up being detrimental instead of influential.
To wrap up this interview, what can older generations learn from Generation Z?
I believe that there's a lot that older generations can learn from Generation Z. One of the types is that they can teach people more about what loving others without accepting their behaviors can actually look like. We have kind of blended recently these terms of tolerance and intolerance and what love actually looks like. And Generation Z, interestingly enough, is a generation that's coming out and saying we can love someone without saying what they do is okay or is right or whatnot. And this definitely translates into the workplace. It's okay to give someone grace. It's okay to love them as a person. It's okay to see them in a crop top and say, you're a beautiful person, but it's a horrible fashion idea. Like, it's okay to say no to the behaviors while still loving that person. And one of the examples is the Tide Pod Challenge, right? That Gen Z is known for. So ever since the Tide Pod Challenge, I feel like they've kind of wanted to go above and beyond and trying to prove themselves as a serious generation to be taken seriously in the workplace and definitely in the consumer marketplace. That was an instance to where, okay, because I ate some laundry detergent back in my high school days doesn't mean I'm a raging idiot. And so they've kind of learned how to balance that better of seeing someone for the person that they are instead of just some of the behaviors or some of the actions that they take on. That is a lesson that the older generation, I honestly believe, myself included, of just being one generation ahead, needs. Another aspect for that is the technological advances. I mean, Gen Z, you're going to be the next designers, you're going to be the next researchers. And so we're already seeing older generations flocking towards smart homes. And so as more and more technology is introduced to us, we're seeing, we now have 90-year-olds who want to FaceTime with their family. And so even taking it up into that radio generation of some that are still with us, definitely in the baby boomers, we see a large technological advancement. And so Generation Z, I think something that they're going to bring that older generations can really look forward to as well as learn from is, what technology do you want to see? What ideas do you have to improve society? And then let's marry these two and make it happen.
Awesome. Emery, thank you again so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, we hope you all have gained some insight about what Generation Z holds from this interview. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe button on our Instagram and Twitter and YouTube, and let us know in the comments below what you think about this interview, and we will see you next time.